What up? What up? Say what, say what, say what?
Good morning. I'm Krista Benavides. It's Bizday New Mexico here on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Bizday New Mexico is where we celebrate all things local by getting to know the people behind the businesses and organizations that make New Mexico the land of enchantment. You can find us here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. And be sure to like and share our Facebook page, Bizday New Mexico. This segment is brought to you in part by Richard Quintana, the mortgage guy at CMG Financial. For all your residential mortgage needs, give him a call at 505-985-5113 or email at rquintana@cmgfi.com. My first guest this morning is Ron Perea, and he is here to share with you about Coyote Comedy Cabaret. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Hi, Krista. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's so good to have you back on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So tell the folks about what Coyote Cabaret is.
Well, don't you think Albuquerque could use another comedy club?
Sure. Things are definitely way too serious in our world, so a little laughter can go a long way.
Well, and considering the fact that 33 years ago, I started the business in this state. And since then, I think I've had about 15 different rooms along the way. And so I'm looking forward to bringing back the newest and the latest. Comedy Cabaret at the Elegante Hotel is going to feature talents from around the world, around the country, and, of course, highlighting the best of New Mexico's talent.
That's exciting. So give folks the dates so that they can start planning since now.
We open up the Friday and Saturday after 4th of July. That would be July 6th and 7th, and every Friday and Saturday thereafter. And our first celebrity comic is, well, how many of you watch Saturday Night Live?
Oh, of course I do.
Do you remember the big old heavy fellow, Chris Farley?
Yes.
Well, his brother is hot on the national scene, so we're going to be bringing in Kevin Farley on that weekend. So we're looking forward to that. He's had his own several sitcoms on the CW and other smaller channels like that. And so I look forward to that. But in the meantime, you name it, all the creme de la creme of talents are going to be on our stage.
That's super exciting. And so give folks the direction, where the comedy club or the
well, you know where
event is going to
if
be
you
held,
do not know
location.
where the MCN Elegante is, Manal and University.
Oh, okay. Of course.
Right across from the Village Inn. How can you miss it? You know what I
How
mean?
can you miss it exactly?
It's been there for everybody's. And so we're looking forward to doing it there.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So what are the hours when people show up?
Well, show times are going to be 8:30.
Okay.
So, and then they're going to have dinner. They're going to have drinks. And because this is radio, I don't know how far we can do as far as promoting, but $20 tickets. But, you know, that's going to buy admission to national caliber talent. Plus, I'm going to throw in a couple drinks.
That sounds like a really good deal, and you can't really beat
deal.
that. It doesn't sound like.
And I want everybody to know that I've made arrangements just this morning, ladies and gentlemen, for Krista to be a guest MC on my show.
I'm so excited. It sounds like a lot of fun, and I'll just have to, get my funny bone going because I tend to be a little more on the serious side, but this will be stretching me a little
serious. You look what she's telling. It's going to be, because she has a beautiful smile, it's going to be great to see her on stage.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and so we'll have to get the dates all set up, and I'll definitely keep letting our listeners know when I'll be there, and I'd love to meet the listeners as well as to promote the show, and so I'll definitely get people aware, even not only today, but reminding people between now and then, because there's a little bit of time and people can plan and make the event, because it's from July through the end of August, roughly, right?
That's correct. And so you get to tell me what dates you want.
Okay.
And so we'll make that arrangements. And opening weekend, we got Roger Blair, the New Mexico comic extraordinaire. And then our opening weekend is Pete Christensen out of Chicago. And then I guess I'll be your humble MC. And that's our opening weekend. And so it should be fun.
And Ron and I were talking before the segment started, and he was sharing something that he has as an expectation for the talent that's coming in terms of keeping it On the family-friendlier side. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Listen, we will be pushing the envelope as far as, giving it an edge. But clean. We got to keep it clean because nobody likes to hear that anymore.
Yeah, profanity is definitely, I think it's overused in comedy, and I don't find it entertaining.
And besides, maybe you're not aware of this, but the death of the comedy club occurred because people don't want to hear that kind of humor anymore. And so who's currently still living anyway, one of the most famous blue comics. And that's why you don't get hired anymore. And so, because comedy clubs don't want to hear that. He used to pack out coliseums, 10,000, 15,000. Now he can't even pack in 10. So it's because of the humor. And so we want to give more intellectual stimulation as opposed to guttural stimulation. I don't want to sound like a snob, but we're still going to push the envelope because we want to sell liquor. But that's my philosophy anyway. And I've been doing it since day one. I've seen it develop and turn into that. It's pretty much the younger bunch below the 30 that likes I could be more descriptive of the type of jokes, but you can understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I just don't think they're the ones that can afford $20 a ticket for 2 drinks and admission to see National Caliber. So I'm not worried about it.
Right. Well, and the other thing is it's still a great price point in terms of the $20 and what you get and the national level entertainment that people are going to receive. But going back to the type of humor, I think there's something to be said for having that more intellectual aspect and the wittiness and all of that goes into it, because anybody can drop F-bombs all day and try to make it funny. But if there's no context behind it, if there's nothing relatable, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is that it doesn't go very far. It gets old very quickly.
And I could tell you exactly what age group the patron changes their mind on that. From the moment they turn 30, their sense of humor matures overnight. And so that you have to satisfy. And I've had 33 years in the business to know that.
Well, you've just aged me, Ron.
See, you just turned.
I think people think I'm younger than I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, she barely just turned 30, okay?
Barely.
And so, for what it's worth, and she looks awfully good for 30 years old.
Thank you. Well, folks, if you're just tuning in, my first guest is Ron Perea, and he is talking about Coyote, I'll give you a combination pronunciations, Coyote or Coyote Comedy Cabaret that's coming up and going to be featured at MC Elegante Hotel beginning the first Friday and Saturday after the 4th of July through August 24th and 25th. Tickets are only $20. You get a couple of drinks, you get nationally recognized comedians that are coming in, and it's a great outing, and all shows start at 8:30. Such
a deal.
It is. And he just invited me this morning to be a guest MC. And so we're going to be looking at dates to see when I'll be available to do that. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. I've MC'd other events, but they tend to be more the panel discussions at conferences and so forth. So this will be a lot of fun.
No seriousness allowed.
I'll do my best.
And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be a show. I'm looking forward to that one.
Me too. So in terms of the talent, you mentioned some big names, but what about some names maybe locally that people haven't heard of that they would be looking forward to hearing?
I want to pass an idea by you, Krista. If you're going to MC, what would you prefer to MC? An all-female lineup or a good mixture of talents?
Mixture.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to have Roger Blair. I'd like to have Kevin Breckenridge. I would like to have several other ethnic-oriented comics. And when I say ethnic, I mean a wide variety of ethnicity. I even have, what can I say, ulterior lifestyle type comics.
Absolutely.
Female comics, Jewish comics. Hispanic comics, black comics.
Right.
But I am preparing an all-female lineup, too.
Okay, well, maybe I'll come back for 2 weekends. Who knows?
Because I think you would be perfect for that. Shondine Sierra, Goldie Garcia. Goldie can do an hour herself. And so those are my thoughts right now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely talk more after the segment is over and after today and get all that squared away. It sounds like a really great event. And of course, that's why I do the show, in terms of promoting all things local. And that's why you're here today. And actually, folks, we have a bonus with Ron today. He's actually going to be the guest in the second segment as well, but talking about his book. So we'll get to that momentarily. But this segment is particularly about the Comedy Cabaret and letting you all know about some great comedy that is coming into town, whether local talent as well as nationally recognized talent.
Well, you hinted of my next segment as an author. But in this segment, I have my first novel was about the comedy club industry, taking the show up and down Route 66. And so I wrote the book on it. What can I tell you?
Literally.
But that was fun, and that's how come I'm looking forward to dealing with that. Enabled me to meet talents from around the country.
Right.
And that is kind of spoiling, because once you do comedy on that level and graduating from a local level, you seldom want to take a step back. And so that's a benefit to Albuquerque, because now I can combine the best of the local, the creme de la creme, and then combine that with national touring caliber, and such a deal.
Absolutely. Well, and the good thing about bringing it and keeping things local in that regard is it exposes people to things that they might not otherwise have an opportunity to experience. And so if there was somebody that is on this stage that might only be in a larger city, well, this is now bringing them close to home for those people who might not travel very often or just don't see that as an opportunity for themselves. And so thank you for doing that, for bringing in variety to the Albuquerque area and keeping us laughing.
And also, a lot of people won't realize this, but Albuquerque is going to be the home base for a national circuit of comedy rooms that I'm working on with casinos.
Excellent. Well, you'll definitely have to come back and tell us more about that.
Hey, I'll tell you more anytime you want to know it.
Well, not in this segment, because we're about to wrap up, but that's okay. I've already made a note to have you back, and when all of that gets started, you'll definitely have to come back.
So in other words, if I was from New York, and I'm not, everybody knows I'm a Albuquerque boy, but if I was from New York, you know what I'd be saying right now?
What?
Hey, we're going to be talking here.
Well, we'll be talking more when we come back after this segment. So folks, you're listening to Bizday New Mexico here on 1050 KTBL. I'm Krista Benavides. Also tune in at 1050talk.com. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back. I'm Krista Benavides. You're listening to Bizday New Mexico on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. This segment is brought to you in part by Chispas Performance Solutions. Chispas Performance Solutions works with businesses and organizations to reduce the cost of doing business caused by ineffective or inadequate communication. They do this by providing customized on-site classes, conference keynote presentations, breakout sessions, and much more. Schedule your free consultation today at chispasperformancesolutions.com or call 505-899-9130. So again, as I mentioned in the first segment, this second segment, again, my guest is Ron Perea, but this time he is representing himself as the author that he is. So welcome again back to the show, Ron.
Hi, Krista. How's it going?
It's going really well. And so I'm really excited, and congratulations on your latest book.
Thank you ever so much. But this one is something along more my personal pursuits, historical fiction.
So this one is entitled Elsie and Elsa. So give us a sneak peek into what this one is about.
About the mid-30 years of the 20th century and all of the international historical events that occurred in this area that nobody knows about. And so I highlight the details. But Elsie and Elsa, the name of the novel, is the fictional storyline in which I used to link up all of these unrelated historical events. And so these events occur around these two gals, and they don't even know about it. And that's how I approach the linking up all of these historical events. For instance, my very first book signing for this novel is going to be Sunday, June 24th, 1 to 5, at the Spy House, 209 North High Street. Why the Spy House? Because that is where the Russians stole the atomic bomb secrets.
Dum, dum, dum.
Not only that, but we all know today the state of relations between the U.S. and Russia. Guess where it all started? Ground Zero,
Albuquerque.
Bingo. And at 209 North High Street. Before, if you recall, during World War II, they were our allies. But they stole the bomb secrets from us here in town, and ever since then, bad news bears. Now, so I detailed a minute-by-minute account of how that went down on June 3rd, 1945, and how, down to every detail, it was 105 degrees that summer afternoon, and how it came down. And so that is why at the 209 North High Street. And read the book, you'll see how it went down. There are other historical events. Did you know, Albuquerque knew, that during World War II, adjacent to the city zoo was an Italian POW camp?
No, I didn't know that.
And, did you know that in 1957, May 22nd, the United States Air Force accidentally dropped a thermonuclear warhead 2 miles south of Kirtland Air Force Base?
Didn't know that either. Is that all in the book, too? Or
yeah.
Bonus facts?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It hit the ground at 8 seconds, but it had a 15-second trigger. So, by 8 seconds, I'm on your show today.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating.
Hey, and it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay, well, I was just going to ask you that because it sounded a little down run. So tell me that there's a little bit more uplifting.
Well, I write about the night JFK partied in Albuquerque.
Okay, there you go.
With a couple of his friends. So I write about the night JFK partied with Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner here in Albuquerque. Or we all remember the Triple J's who OD'd at the end, 1970 to 71. There was Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and who was the third J? I told you.
Morrison.
Jim. But it just so happens, because he was the lead singer of the Doors, he was a rock and roll sex god, right? Famous around all the English-speaking world. Just that he happened to be a 1962 grad at Sandia High School. So I had to put that in.
Of course.
By all means.
Well, and folks, listeners, you can't see the book, but when you get it, you will see on the cover several of the people and the topics that he's already mentioned are on the cover. So you get a sneak peek into the book before you even start to read it, because there's a picture of Jim Morrison, there's a picture of Kennedy, the Route 66, of course.
And who else is there a picture of?
And he was teasing earlier that there's the picture on front of an extraterrestrial being is actually a picture of him, but it's not.
I had to do some dental work, okay?
Yeah, and you had an eye job.
I had to be more seductive.
Yeah.
But I had to be true to New Mexico and New Mexicans because of two wars that New Mexico played a particular contribution to. World War II and Vietnam. We've all heard of the Battle of Hamburger Hill. It just so happens that 1/3 of the casualties were from New Mexico. A lot of people don't realize that. I had to put that in, just to be true to my own soul. And then World War II, a lot of our returning veterans were POWs from the Bataan Death March. And so I give the inside scoop that only I could. You know why?
Why?
I'm the loving son of a Bataan Death March survivor. And so I had special privy to inside details that I don't know if most people would have heard of, could have imagined, but I outlined them. So I had to. It was like I was born to write this book, I feel sometimes.
Well, and let me ask you, I know your other books are also historically based. I mean, you love fiction, and you're a lover of history. And so share with our listeners just how you came to start authoring books about history, but then putting that fiction spin on it, on them?
Well, my first novel had nothing to do with history.
Okay, I thought it did.
Except the history of the comedy club business.
Okay.
And then my second novel is a personal romance adventure, and I have a hobby. You know what my hobby is, don't you? Tango dancing.
I did not know that.
So I had to write about tango dancing around the world.
Okay.
But my next novel is historical as all get out. The history of baseball. Yeah. It's not about the star home run hitter. It's not about the star pitcher. But when was the last time you heard a story about the star umpire?
Never.
And so that's how come I wrote about a book about 5 generations of a family of umpires, stretching from the future all the way back to where baseball began, Civil War, and how it migrated across the country. And in 1880, it's finally made it to Albuquerque. It was brought here by the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe as a marketing tool. They provided a baseball team, the typical image of a baseball team, those burly kind of guys with handlebar mustaches that chewing tobacco cussing. And they played against a local team. They called themselves the Albuquerque Browns. They were the little boys who hadn't even shaved yet from the College of the New Mexico Territory. And so they played. And so that's the first game of baseball in history. It just took. And here's a note. In 1882, they were playing a game. After the game, the umpire's throat was so sore he couldn't even talk, because back then they had to call the game in a megaphone and surround us. He had a shout all the time. And running around the field, he had a sore throat. He couldn't barely talk. After the game, the captain of the Albuquerque Browns said, "Hey, ump." They was right on the verge of being called the referee. Now they're being called the ump on that verge. He says, "Hey, ump, see a couple of my players over there? They're deaf. Why don't you, I tell you, suggestion, just an idea. If you want to call a ball, raise the left finger. If you want to call a strike, raise a right finger. If you want to say he's safe, just wave out your hands. But if you want to call him out, wave that thumb right across your head. He's out. What do you think of that idea?" "Hey, I like that," he said with a sore throat. 5 years later, as the baseball spread and all these players started traveling with the game, there was a story in 1887 in the New York Post outlining about this new thing in baseball called calling with signals. And I'm proud to say where it started.
That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that.
And so that's in that book.
So that's in the next book coming up.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the novel after that is about the Harvey girls.
Well, folks, if you're just tuning in, my guest for the second segment is the one from the first segment. But again, it's Ron Perea. And this time he's talking about his latest book called Elsie and Elsa. But what you just heard was a sneak peek into his upcoming book about the history of baseball, but particularly the umpires in baseball. So it's historical fiction.
Excuse me, not the empires.
The umpires.
Thank you very much.
Did I mispronounce? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, the umpires with a U at the beginning. Yes. So we have a couple of minutes left in this segment. So the mic's yours. What else do you want?
I want everybody to come to my book signing on June 24th, Sunday, from 1 to 5. This is the type of novel, Elsie and Elsa, that you pick up now and you will pass on to your kids when their time comes. This is something that you should know about, where you came from. For instance, where was the very first Hilton Hotel? They're all over the world now. But where was the very first one?
University in Manal, right here in Albuquerque.
Nope.
Is that the second one? Because I know that used to be a Hilton.
Let's put it this way, that the very first Hilton in the history of the world.
Down in San Antonio, where Conrad Hilton grew up?
It is now called Hotel Andaluz.
Oh, okay.
The very first Hilton in the history of the world. And during the war years, Conrad Hilton ran that himself. And so he called it day-to-day shots.
I knew that. I just thought it was where the now Crown Plaza is.
And where was the desktop computer invented?
In a garage here in Albuquerque.
By a retired Sandia Labs scientist.
Yes.
That was shown on the cover of Popular Mechanics. And when that went national, who do you think that attracted to come to Albuquerque? The fellow himself, Bill Gates. And where do you think the very first Microsoft office was located?
Well, it was here. Unfortunately, didn't get the backing, and they left. They left us. 229
Truman Northeast was the very first Microsoft office building. Today, it's still up, collecting tumbling tumbleweeds inside.
As we have many of them. Yeah. So as we wrap up this segment, again, my guest for the second segment is Ron Perea. And for more information about the comedy entertainment coming into town, as well as his books, you can find him and all the information at ronperea.com. And Ron is spelled with 2 N's. So Ron, RONNPEREA.com. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Krista, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, one last thought. When Krista's emceeing my show, come see how lovely she is.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Albuquerque, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, stay tuned. I'll be right back with my next guest. I'm Krista Benavides. This is Bizday New Mexico on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back. I'm Krista Benavides. You're listening to Bizday New Mexico. You're on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. This segment is brought to you in part by the Aceves Group, your residential real estate professionals. Contact Santiago at 505-270-2662 or Jasmine at 505-417-1683 for all your residential real estate needs. My final guest this morning is Luis Galarza with GN Services. Welcome to the show, Luis.
Thank you very much, Krista. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, I should say welcome back, because Luis was here with us last year, and he was kind enough to come back this year. And I think it's important for him to share what he does, because there are people out there that need his services that may not realize that he's available. So share with us what you do at GN Services.
Thank you. At GN Services, what we do is we do anything really related to the technology. Computers, printers, banking equipment, networking, anything to do with the office equipment, be honest with you. So we do from big corporations to small, individual people. So we service anybody, to be honest.
Well, and what's really great about that, I've found, at least, because Luis is who I turn to for my technology issues, because I'm not a technology person. That's why I speak for a living. And even sometimes I can barely do that.
No, that's not true.
But yeah, Luis is great. And what I appreciate about what he offers is that he does free estimates. Not a lot of companies, I don't know if any other company does that.
There is a few, but we offer free estimates for anything, really. As long as you bring it to my shop, we will give you a free estimate, and then we'll go from the diagnostic and then so forth. So, and you're right. I think you can count the companies that do that. So. And that's what I say. We're there for the people, because I know sometimes something is not worth fixing, So we try to offer first a free diagnostic to let you know, what is worth fixing, is not worth fixing, and then how much it's going to cost you. And then you make your own decisions, A lot of people love that stuff, so.
Right. So share with our listeners how you got into this line of work. Because actually, just some background, Luis and I have been friends for, I think, over 20 years. We used to work in telecommunications together. But you have a varied background. So tell people how you got into this line of work in terms of being the technology expert.
Well, I started this in the 80s when I was going to high school. My uncle used to own a couple of companies. At the end, we bought him out about 15 years ago. So I was going to school. I moved here from Ecuador. So went to high school here, UNM, and then after that, I was still working on the field, on the office, just as a sub-tech. So I used to love always electronics, so that's what I got into, electronics in college. And then little by little, we took over the company. With my partner Alberto, we bought out 2 companies, Pat Goodwins and OSI, and we opened GN Services, what is now. And we've been in business now, it's been close to 15 years.
And so with the background in technology, one of the things that I've found helpful as well is that you can explain things, at least to me, that make sense.
Yes.
And so share your approach about that, because I don't find that that's always the case.
In technology, you got a couple of people, like they speak like foreign language. IT guys, for example. I mean, if you talk to an IT guy to IT guy, they're talking Chinese to each other, so many people, they don't have that knowledge. And what we do there, we're trying to explain, a certain level how everything works. And people appreciate that, or sometimes they just fix it, but we're trying to explain to them what it takes to get to that point, Yeah. And it's kind of hard, to explain with the new tech. And we always, try to get to, in the technology, all the new stuff, so we can explain people what's going on. And you've seen that sometimes, like, I explain to you over hard drives and things like that. You're like, what is that? Yeah.
And I just say, okay, I get it, fix it.
Just fix it, exactly. But just fix it. So, but for people who want to know what it takes to get a repair or anything like that, a lot of people want details. And we're there for them, to explain what's going on, and little by little. Some other people, they don't care. They just say, as long as they fix it, whatever it takes sometimes.
Yeah, that's me. Mm-hmm. That's me. But having that additional information helps people be more informed consumers. Mm-hmm. And I know people like to get second opinions and all of that, so they can then take that information to somewhere else and speak intelligently, and then get an apples to apples comparison. And then they come back to you because you're more reasonable and fair priced anyway.
Exactly. To that point, I mean, we try to at least match all this, the what we charge, for estimates or for repairs. We're trying to be the lowest possible out there, to try to help the customers, and that's what we explain to them. Some people, you don't know what they fix, and they come back like, a certain amount of money they charge you. Like, what did you do? How come so much? And it sometimes that's the case in some computers or printers that happens, and we try to explain to them what's going on. That's why we offer the free diagnostic and free estimate first, to let you know what it's going to take. Many people, they don't do that. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. And folks, if you're listening from other places in the state, if you're listening on the line at 1050talk.com, GN Services, Luis and his other technicians, they're all over the state. So you might be thinking, oh, well, they're in Albuquerque. That's not going to do me any good. Mm-hmm. He has clients all over the state, whether you're in Raton or Las Cruces, they can have you covered. So give them a call. Why don't you give your contact information?
The phone number is going to be 505-266-2954. And we're located at 1425 Carlao Northeast. Zip code is going to be 87110. Call the number. We got also my business partner, Alberto. You got also IT guys there. Anybody will help you really to any of your concerns or needs. And,
And they offer services in both English and Spanish. So not only do they translate the information from tech speak to English, but also from tech speak to Spanish. So if you have, maybe one of your favorite business people is a Spanish dominant speaking business and they could use their services, GN Services is the place to go.
Yes, we do speak both languages, believe it or not. At least we try to. And also we speak the technical, terms also.
Tech speak as well, exactly.
Tech talk.
So give our listeners some information as to what they can do to keep their technology running more effectively. I mean, there's a little bit of maintenance, right, that can be done for technology?
A couple of things. First of all, now that we're here, I'm going to give a little tip. Nobody from anywhere was going to call you to let you know that your computer is broken. That's a no-no right there. I mean, we got a lot of older people and people that don't know computers. Sometimes the scams, they call you, okay, you got a virus, open your computer, type these things, we're going to fix it for you. No, never. They're going to call you regarding that. Microsoft, none of those companies like Google, nobody's going to call your house just to let you know your computer is broken. So be careful with that. I mean, and that's why you always have to be aware. If you have any questions, anything like that, give us a call. We got a lot of people that got machines have broken because they get access to these third-party companies. They just break your computer and they charge you $300 just to fix it. And you didn't have nothing wrong with the computer, We got a lot of cases that this is happening now. Don't download things that you don't know. If you're on your computer, if you don't know anything, don't click on. I mean, always read carefully what you're doing. I mean, and like I said, just make sure. And if you don't know, Google it. If you don't know a company that's kind of like weird, Google it, and see if it's real or not. And like I said, if you don't know anything about it, just give us a call, We'd be glad to help you.
And that's a really good point. I mean, you hear about these scams from the IRS or from these banks from who knows what company and so forth. So whether it's emails, phone calls, et cetera, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought that up. I've gotten calls at my office at home that, and usually I don't pick up if it's not a number I recognize, but from quote unquote Microsoft represented companies. They never say Microsoft, it's represented or, have some tagline to it and say, we've gotten this notification that there's a virus or that your computer is about to blow up, or maybe they're not that dramatic, but it sounds like
something like that. You're right.
Right. And give them a call. And then pretty soon, I've never called them, thankfully, because you've told me not to, but that's really important because they sound legitimate. Very much so. Just be aware. Be aware. I mean, if you don't know anything, don't do it. I mean, just don't. And sometimes the best thing is if you're afraid, just turn the computer off. I mean, and that's one of the tips we tell everybody, don't do anything you don't know. Right. Or you see kind of weird. It's like now they do the scams you haven't paid your electrical bill or something like that. You have to be careful with everything. Absolutely. Well, listeners, and if you're just tuning in, my guest this morning is Luis Galarza with GN Services, and you can contact them for all your computer technology, office equipment, networking, all of your technology needs at 505-266-2954. They're located at 1425 Carlisle Northeast, and that's on the west side of the street, just across from Smith's and Taj Mahal Restaurant. Yes. So we have a couple minutes left in the segment. Why don't you share with our listeners some things that they can do to save on ink? Oh, my goodness. That's a the question I always have, and what they can do to be more efficient with printing. Couple of things. If you're really into color printing, you're going to spend some money because those little ink cartridges and stuff like that, they cost a lot of money. If you don't, be honest with you, just go to change it to a laser printer. And to mention that in laser printers, we also sell refurbished equipment. So if your budget is not set to buy a brand new printer or a brand new all-in-one machine, we do offer refurbished computers, printers, scanners, anything with the office equipment, we do sell refurbished. That will save you a lot of money. And if you have to, there's a couple of things. If you can print black and white and just buy an old cheap laser printer, do it. Otherwise, don't spend that much money. I guess with Krista, we find that out, right? Yes. She was spending so much money and just refilling these color printers. Most of the people, we print always black and white. Right. You can have a backup just when you want to print color. If you have to, like 3 or 4 pages, have a little backup, cheap, like $60 printer. And for the rest of it, I recommend just to go to a black laser printer, black. And welcome to call us. We do offer a lot of, refurbished laser printers, And that's a really good point. I never would have thought of that. I had called him, my printer wasn't working correctly, and I was like, Luis, I have this job to get out. I've got a client. And he said, well, is it in color? I said, no. If I have a job, I send it out, usually to get printed by somebody who knows what they're doing. It was just something real quick in black and white. And so he kind of gave me a tongue lash, and he says, why are you using this color printer for your printing? He says, get a laser printer. I said, oh, but those are expensive. I got set up with a refurbished one, the toner that's probably going to last me, I don't know how long. And now I don't have to worry about it. Exactly. And some of those toners now, even the little ones, the toner lasts you close to between 2,000 to 3,000 pages. That's a lot of pages. That's a lot. So why spend money in the ink? But like I say, if you have to use ink. Just try to use it, it depends. Right. If you're a photographer, you do stuff like that, it's a completely different story, We do refurbish those printers too and sell them. So keep that in mind. But again, for all your computer and your technology needs, call Luis or anybody at the office at 505-266-2954, GN Services, 1425 Carlisle Northeast. Thank you so much for being on the show this morning. Thank you very much for having me again. I appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back. All right, folks, that was Luis Galarza, and I'll be right back with the show wrap-up. I'm Krista Benavides. This is Bizday New Mexico on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. I'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. I'm Krista Benavides. It's Bizday New Mexico here on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. Thank you so much for tuning into the show this morning. It's time for the show wrap up. And we had two guests this morning. One took up those first two segments with some great information. And so the first guest that I had was Ron Perea. And in the first segment, he shared with us about the Coyote Comedy Cabaret that is opening up and going to be featured at the MC Elegante Hotel that is located on Manolan University here in Albuquerque. And it is starting the first weekend after the 4th of July, which is July 6th and 7th. And it's Friday, Saturday, and then continuing on every weekend until August 24th and 25th. Tickets are $20. You can get more information at ronperea.com, and that's RONNPEREA.com, featuring comics and comedians from all over the country as well as locally. And I am actually going to be a guest MC one of the weekends, maybe 2 weekends, if he can talk me into it. But I think it'll be great. So I look forward to seeing you all there. And he also shared in the second segment how his second book has just been released. And he's an author, if you don't remember him from being on the show last year. But he is an author. And this book is a work of historical fiction called Elsie and Elsa. And he's having a book signing coming up on Sunday, June 24th. And that is going to be at 209 North High Street, and that's the Spy House, part of the downtown bed and breakfast trio of homes and bed and breakfasts there on High Street. And that's at 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. And so again, that's Ron Perea signing and talking about his latest book, Elsie and Elsa, Sunday, June 24th. And my final guest was Luis Galarza with GN Services, and they are located at 1425 Carlisle Northeast. You may call them at 505-266-2954. And they are your go-to for any kind of issue that you may be having with office equipment, home computing equipment, anything like that. And it's not only here in Albuquerque. They have, as I was saying during the segment, they have clients all over the state. And you get one-on-one customer service from whether it's Luis, Alberto, or any of the other technicians that work in the business, and fair pricing, competitive pricing. But what I really appreciate is that they are honest. You're not going to be paying for something that you don't need or buying something that you don't need. You get actual honest information when it comes to your technology. So that is our show. So Mike, our producer, was sharing with me, or teasing me actually. He was teasing me. Can you imagine that? Teasing me, I'm such a nice person, about whether or not I was going to give some tips, because I haven't given any tips in the last several weeks. And he's right. I think part of that is because I've still been in recovery mode. I shared with you all that I had surgery at the beginning of April on my ear to restore hearing. And thankfully, I thank God that the surgery was successful. I'm hearing better. And that, though, has created a whole new world of, I don't want to say problems. I don't like the word problems, but a whole new world of challenges. Not only getting used to new sounds and the sounds that I used to hear being much louder, but because that is part of the hearing is part of the vestibular ocular system. And in layman's terms, your hearing and seeing or visual systems. It's been a whole education in terms of learning how to speak again, almost, because my voice vibrates. If you've never noticed that, here's your tip in terms of speaking. We hear ourselves. And I don't think most people pay attention to how they sound to themselves when they speak. Well, this has been a whole new education for me, being more aware of how I sound when I'm speaking, simply because initially after the surgery, I was feeling it as much as I was hearing it. So it's been this adjustment, and I'm still dealing with vertigo. So I was listening to past shows over this last month and noticed that I had a little bit of pause in my voice and where my thoughts weren't coming out as clearly. And my point is to share as I'm sharing all of this with you, is that even those of us who are in this world, who speak for a living, who are communication experts, as I am, we still need practice. We still need coaching. Never take it for granted is my point. And so I've been working with my business coach and making sure that I'm up to par and making sure that my voice is where I need it to be. It's an ongoing process. So the bottom line is continue learning, continue growing, be committed to being your best self every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. That's our show. Tune in every Saturday at 10 a.m. And it's Bizday New Mexico here on 1050 KTBL and 1050talk.com. Enjoy your weekend.